What kind of future are we looking at as the dust settles on COVID-19, the vaccine eventually comes out and we start to build up herd immunity from the coronavirus? Joining me to consider some scenarios is futurist Gihan Perera. Welcome, Gihan.
Thanks, Jenny. Glad to be here again.
Great to have you with us. You may not be a medical specialist, but you do follow trends and look to the past and consider the future in your line of work. Do you think a vaccine is our best bet against COVID-19?
Yes, undoubtedly, if we can get a vaccine that works effectively, if we can get enough of the vaccine produced to get to the whole world, if we can transport it to the whole world and we can get enough people vaccinated, then it's absolutely our best bet. But there are a whole bunch of ifs in there. And even best case scenario, that scenario is not going to happen till the end of next year, till the end of 2021. So it's still a while away.
Absolutely. In the meantime, we're going to continue on to see these kind of ebbs and flows of restrictions being tightened and lifted. You know, in South Australia, we've had quite a few new cases in a big cluster. I know Western Australia is clamping down on people coming into the state from over here. So it's going to be a watch and see sort of situation, isn't it?
That's right, and that's kind of what our short-term COVID normal is going to be, Jenny. It is going to be that we have to be safe. We have to still think about the fact that South Australia's got a state of major emergency. WA still got a state of emergency, and we've got to not be complacent around that. Still wash hands, avoid handshakes and hugs, still maintain social and physical distancing. All of those things are going to be really important until we're over this with that, and the vaccine definitely is going to be the solution to that.
I imagine we're going to start seeing a bit of a clashing of cultures of universal protection versus profits in medicine, depending on which country people are in as well.
Yeah, and I've always said that it's a triple crisis. There's an economic crisis, a health crisis, and a social crisis. And Australia's done really well, actually. Like on a world scale, on a global scale, we're one of the biggest economies in the world. It's number 13 or 14, depending on who you ask. But if you look at those top 20 economies in the world, the biggest economies, the only countries that have done better than us in terms of managing the health crisis are China, which is way out ahead, China, Japan, and South Korea, and then Australia. So we are doing a really good job at managing the health crisis, and now we just need to make sure that we can also keep that under control, but also manage the economic crisis and the social crisis that the coronavirus brings.
Gihan Perera is with me. He is a futurist. If we don't get a vaccine, although it's looking like we will by the end of next year, what are the other options?
Yeah, there are the other options, and so the vaccine is the thing that everyone's pinning their hopes on, but it shouldn't be the only thing that we're thinking about. So there are a couple of other things. One is better treatment, and already that's happened. So given that we've had the virus around, I heard somebody say that maybe right now is about a year perhaps since the first case of the virus happened in China. So it's been around for 12 months, but probably we've been looking at it really seriously for the last 6 to 8 months, and we've found better ways to treat it. We're understanding a lot more about it now, so better treatment helps. So it means that the fatality rate has lowered, so fewer people are dying from it, and they're recovering faster. So definitely better treatment is one of the things that will help. The other thing that's happening is that people are looking at how to test for it faster. Because the problem at the moment with the highest quality tests, which are known as the PCR tests, they take a while. They still take maybe 24 to 48 hours to get your results back, which means that if you get tested, you have to go into isolation for that time. And for some people, like 2 days off work is a big deal, or 2 days just waiting for a result is a real inconvenience. So if you want to get in a flight and the airline says you need to be tested, but you can't get in a flight for 2 days, or you can't leave somewhere for 2 days, that can be a big deal. But if you have these rapid tests where you can get tested in 10, 15 minutes, you could imagine that just like you've got a security line to get through to get on a plane, you might have to go through a COVID test. And that could be quite practical if it can be done quickly. If you go through, line up, get your test, and then you have to wait 10 to 15 minutes before you get cleared to get in a flight, that does really open up possibilities for things like international travel.
And what practices do you think will always stay with us that have been born from this whole scenario? You know, things we didn't necessarily do before, but now do religiously because of the pandemic.
Yeah, look, I think this is really interesting. So early in the pandemic, when we weren't sure how well we were going to control it, I was thinking that we might be saying that's the end of the handshake forever. We'll never shake hands ever again because we have to live in this kind of really careful about our health. We might be washing our hands more frequently. But now that we've got it under control, I think that many of those things aren't going to stay with us. I think we're going to go back to the way things were because we've sorted out the problem. There are some other things though that are going to stay. For example, telehealth. So the fact that you can go and have an online consultation with your GP or other medical professional, that's going to stay with us in the future. Online shopping, there are more people doing that and will continue doing that in the future. Working from home, it's been going on for a while, but it hasn't been mainstream until this year. And now, any employer who really wants to attract and keep the best people are going to have to offer some kind of working from home flexibility. So some of those things are definitely going to go forward in our future. I mean, I wouldn't mind getting rid of the handshake. You know, the handshake's been with us since I don't know, Middle Ages, when you used to show an empty hand to show that you haven't got a weapon in it, and that's how the handshake started. There's no reason why we can't get rid of that practice, but it's become so ingrained in us that I think once we become safe again, we'll go back to shaking hands.
But it might be okay if you don't shake hands. It might sort of be socially acceptable.
So you know what? I found that quite interesting in the last few months, Jenny. So I'm being really careful because, especially because I go out and speak at events, I run workshops. I'm catching up and interacting with a lot of strangers just as part of my job. And one of the things that I'm always careful to do is offer my elbow to people who come up to me so that they know that I'm being COVID safe. And people are okay with that. They might have otherwise thought about shaking hands, but now they're okay with that and they go, oh, are we still doing that? And then they bump elbows and have a bit of a laugh about it. But it is one of those things that we might go back to and so we might continue and say that's never going to change. We're going to be okay with not having as much physical contact.
Well, thanks so much for your time today, Gihan Perera.
Thanks, Jenny, and stay safe and healthy.